Hey class, how's it going? I know I said the last video, but it was going too long, and so it cut me off. I wasn't able to make that size of video that big. So I got through the 3 questions that I wanted to, question 3, 4, and another one. Last question that I want to kind of talk about for power and efficiency, right off a provincial exam. That's a little bit tougher, but honestly not too bad when you kind of understand the concept of a total energy. So let's go over, again, this is a new question, so it's not for your practice sheet, but let's go over it, and if you do want to write it down and try it out, it'd be a good thought. I think most of you honestly could get A right away at this. B might be a little tougher. Let's go through this. What power is needed to accelerate a 1,200 kilogram car from VI of 25 to 35 in 5 seconds? And so the first one says if the road was frictionless, and the second one says if the road has a coefficient of shrinkage. So A honestly is not too bad. Let's go through A here. Again, I need power, so power is work over time. I have a time here. How am I going to get work here? There's no force, but the nice thing is I have a changing velocity. If I have a changing velocity, that means I'm going to have a change in energy, especially in the kinetic energy part. So let's find the change in actual kinetic energy. So I'm going to find my kinetic energy kind of initial and kinetic energy final. And whatever the difference is, that's going to be my work. So if I do this, 1/2 1,225 squared, I get an answer of, what do I get an answer of? I get 375,000. And kinetic energy final, 1/2 1,235 squared. And so if I 35 squared, my final would be, I think, something like 735,000. All right, so cool. The difference, the work, is just the difference between those two. I started this. That change energy is my work. So if I take that minus this, I get 360,000. And that's joules. So that's how much work, basically, my car did to get from 25 meters a second to 35 meters a second. Now, if I just want the power, not too bad. I'm going to go 360,000 divided by 5. That's my time. And I get a power of, I think it's something like 72,000. 72,000 watts. All right, so honestly, this question, not too bad, at least A, in the sense of like, I figured out my work, which is my change in energy. I was given a time, not too bad. That's how much power is done. All right, B is where it gets a little trickier. So I'm going to kind of erase this and then just go through B. I'm going to leave this on the side here. So let's think about B. It says, what if the road has a coefficient of friction of 0.2? And just to let you know, all roads have friction. That is how our car gets moving. Otherwise, if there's no friction, we wouldn't be able to move. That's how we stop. So we need friction on roads. So even when you're driving, again, there's going to be friction between the tires and the road. So this is a much more realistic question. So let's try to figure out how we're actually going to get this. Well, again, I still need power to still work over time. I already have that time. Where am I going to get that work from? Well, there's 2 sources where you're going to get work from. Like, you're still changing your kinetic energy. So that 360,000, the work done for 360,000, like the change in kinetic energy, is still going to be there. But also, there's going to be work done by friction. In the sense of friction is going to be taking some of your, when you put work in, there's going to be a loss of your work due to friction. So we need to find what that loss is if I have a coefficient of 0.2. Now there's no change in energy for this work, so I'm going to want my force multiplied by distance to figure the friction. And if there's ever a question about friction and work, it's almost always going to come from the force and distance one. So let's start with this. Work by friction equals force of friction times distance. Okay, can I find the force of friction? Yes, I can. Okay, I have a mass, which means I can get a force gravity. and then I have a mu. So again, what's our formula? Force of friction equals mu times force normal. So I can do this. So let's do a little dynamics. I said that we're going to keep incorporating all these things back into our questions. We're going to do that. So let's do a little dynamics here. Force of gravity is 1,200 times 9.8. So I get something like 11,760. And so that is also my force normal. Okay, because I'm on a nice flat ground. There's no angles. I don't need any sine or coses. Force of gravity is force normal when we're on flat. So there we go. Also, I have the mu already. Cool, so I have these two things now. So if I go, force of friction equals 0.2 times 1176, which gives me 2,352 newtons. All right, so I have figured out the force of friction. I figured out how much force friction is working on. A distance. Now, there is no distance in this question, but I do have a VI, I do have a VF, and I do have a time. So we're going to get some kinematics in this question as well. I know, we have energy question that you need to do dynamics and kinematics in. It's fun, it's great. Let's figure out the distance, okay? And so like I said, if you write down your variables, you have VI, VF, and time. I need a distance. This formula, distance equals VI plus VF over 2, will work very nicely in this scenario. I want the distance, I have all these, beautiful. So let's do this. Distance equals, in brackets, 25 plus 35 over 2 multiplied by time, which is 5. My distance, 150 meters. Cool. All right, so I found the force. I found how far the car went. I can figure my work done by friction. This is going to be the work done by friction. So I'm going to write this up here, just because I'm running out of space. So my work done by friction is going to equal my force, 2,352, multiply my distance. All right, that's going to give me a big number, okay? 352,800. Man, that light loves to go off when I'm working here. All right, I'm back. So this is the work done by friction. So if that's the work done by friction, and I had this work, so like I had this work, which was, that's the work I still needed to accelerate, that's still the same, and I have this work, I'm going to put them together for my total work, how much total work I had to do. Okay, so I'm going to kind of erase this now. What was work total? Work total equals 360,000 plus 352,800. And I get my total work now is, I have to turn my page. This question was so long. There we go. 712,800. All right. Now I have my total work. It becomes easy now. The time's still the same. So to get power, just divide this by 5. And my total power, or my power in this scenario, would have had to have been 142,560. And this kind of makes sense. Like again, if I have more and more friction, the more and more power I'm going to need to actually do the same amount of like acceleration or change in velocity. The more friction, the more work I'd have to do, which means the more power I'd have to do. So there's the last question. I probably will have a question like this on our assignment, but now that you kind of know how to get like total friction, hopefully it's all good. All right, class, thanks. That is the last video. We're good. I hope you have a great day.